I never thought a single sentence could change the way my heart beat. But when he leaned close, his breath cold against my ear, and whispered, "Don't try anything," my soul shook. I felt the words more than I heard them. They slid under my skin and stayed there, like a warning stitched into my bones. You always believe fear is loud, like screaming or breaking glass, but sometimes fear is soft, quiet, a whisper in a dark place where you feel completely alone. That day, I learned what quiet fear feels like. It started like any ordinary morning, the kind where the sun rises slow, the air feels calm, and your mind slips into the day without expecting anything unusual. No signs, no shadows, no warnings, just routine, until everything changed. I remember standing outside the grocery store, loading a few bags into the trunk of my car. Nothing stressful, nothing out of place, a normal moment in an ordinary life. I had paused to adjust the strap of my purse, humming without thinking. I don't even know what song it was. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that in the middle of that calm, a voice appeared behind me. A voice that didn't belong. Don't scream. Those two words froze me. The tone wasn't loud. It wasn't harsh. It was steady, almost calm, too calm. I felt something press into my back. I didn't know what it was then, but I knew it wasn't good. The shape, the threat, the closeness, it all told me what my brain didn't want to understand. "Get in the car," he said quietly. Now. I froze. My heart didn't know if it should beat fast or stop completely. I remember thinking, this can't be happening. Not to me. Not today. Not in this place. Not in daylight. But it was happening. And in moments like this, your mind becomes two people. One part is terrified. The other is strangely calm, focused on survival. I didn't turn around. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. Something inside me whispered, "Stay alive first. Ask questions later." So I did what he said. I opened the car door. My grocery bag slid off the seat and fell to the floor with a soft thud. It felt like the world holding its breath. "Drive," he said. His voice shook just slightly on that word, just slightly. Enough for me to know something wasn't right with him either. Or maybe everything wasn't right. But I drove. My hand shook, but the car moved. My breath trembled, but I kept breathing. He sat behind me, not beside me. I didn't dare look in the mirror. I didn't dare move too fast or too slow. "What's your name?" he asked suddenly. My mouth went dry. I don't know if I should say. "Just tell me," he insisted, quieter this time. "Rachel?" "Okay," he said, like he was testing the sound of it. Rachel. My name sounded strange coming from him, like it no longer belonged to me. We drove for what felt like hours, though maybe it was 30 minutes. Time doesn't behave normally when you're scared. It stretches, it twists, it becomes something else. "Turn up that road," he said. The road led towards an old industrial area. Fewer houses, fewer people, fewer chances to be seen. My throat tightened. This was the point fear turned heavy. This was the point my mind whispered, this could be the end. I tried to stay calm. I tried to breathe in and out in a way that didn't show my fear. But my soul felt cold. He told me to stop near an empty loading dock. The building looked abandoned, the windows boarded, the paint chipped, the silence thick. "Turn off the car," he said. I swallowed hard and did it. Then I felt something cold against my neck. Metal. Sharp. Real. "I'm going to cover your eyes now. Don't try anything." That sentence struck my heart like a hammer. Not because of the threat, but because of the quiet way he said it. As if he didn't want to hurt me. As if this wasn't something he wanted to do. But fear didn't let me think deeper. Not yet. He tied fabric over my eyes. Not too tight, but dark enough to erase the world around me. I heard the back door open, his footsteps, a shift in the air. Then, "Get out." It took everything in me to not collapse as I stepped onto the concrete. The ground felt uneven, the air smelled of dust, oil, and something old. He guided me forward, one hand near my arm but not touching. Strangely gentle, strangely unsure. I heard a metal door open, rusty hinges groaning. Then we walked inside. The air became cooler, still, quiet. He closed the door behind us. The sound echoed like a final sentence. I stood there blindfolded, trembling. For a moment, he didn't speak at all, just breathing, his and mine. Two frightened rhythms sharing the same space. Finally, he said, "Sit down." I reached out, touching nothing but air. Then my fingertips brushed the edge of a chair, a simple metal chair. I sat. He tied my wrists, gently, almost apologetically, not tight enough to hurt, but secure enough to keep me still. Then he whispered again, close to my ear, "Don't try anything." That was the moment my soul shook so hard I needed every ounce of strength not to break apart. He stepped away, his footsteps pacing. The floor creaked under him. Then he stopped. "I didn't want to do this," he said quietly. Something about his tone changed me. It softened the terror just slightly, not enough to calm me, but enough to make me listen. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. Silence. Then, "You don't understand," he said. "This isn't about you." Those words shocked me. Was that supposed to comfort me? It didn't, but it made me curious. I heard him move again. He sounded restless, like someone fighting an invisible battle inside himself. "What do you mean?" I asked. He didn't answer. Not at first. I heard him sit down somewhere behind me. A sigh escaped him, long, heavy, exhausted. And for a moment, silence was the scariest thing in the world. Then he spoke. His voice was low, almost breaking. He said, "I'm sorry." The apology took me by surprise. Why would a kidnapper apologize? Why would someone threatening me sound like he meant it? He added, "I didn't choose this." Those words settled on my skin like cold rain. I didn't respond. Not yet. My heart was still trying to keep up with everything happening. He continued, "I know you're scared. I know this is awful. But if you stay calm, you'll be okay." "Okay? How can you say that?" He didn't answer. It felt like there were two people in that room. Me, terrified and unsure. Him, lost in a situation he didn't fully control. I could feel the tension rolling off him. Fear, regret, something deeper. "Can I ask something?" I said softly. Silence again. "What's your name?" He exhaled slowly, like giving his name meant giving away something he wanted to keep hidden. Finally, he answered, "Evan." The name felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. A normal name, a human name, not a monster's name. "Evan," I repeated softly. My voice trembled. I didn't know what else to say. I didn't know how to make sense of anything. He said, "There are people coming. They're the reason you're here." My stomach dropped. "What people?" I whispered. "You'll know soon." He sounded sad, broken. A man caught between danger and something like guilt. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, not because of pain, not because of the ropes, but because I suddenly realized something. This wasn't random. This wasn't senseless. This wasn't just me. Something bigger was happening, something that involved him just as much as it involved me. Then he said the words that made everything go colder. "You weren't supposed to be the one." My breath stopped. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "It should have been someone else, but you were there and they were watching and I had to act." "Act for what? Who?" He didn't answer. And the silence between us felt heavy enough to suffocate me.
I heard footsteps outside, a distant car door shutting, a murmur of voices. Evan stiffened. "They're here," he whispered. And just like that, I realized the true danger wasn't the man in the room with me. It was whoever was coming next. My heart trembled so hard I could barely breathe. Everything felt sharp, every sound, every breath, every beat of my heart. Then Evan said the last words I heard before the door opened. "Rachel, I'm going to try to help you, but I don't know if I can." And my soul shook again. I wish I could tell you that after hearing "they're here," my heart settled or accepted something. But fear doesn't settle. It doesn't rest. It doesn't go quiet. It stretches itself through every part of you until even your breathing feels borrowed.
The sounds outside grew clearer. A car door, footsteps, a faint murmur of voices. Slow, deliberate, not rushed, not chaotic, almost practiced. And in that moment, blindfolded, tied, heart shaking, I realized something I hadn't dared to think in the first few minutes of being taken. This wasn't random. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. I heard Evan's breath shift beside me. It became shorter, sharper, as if every sound from outside walked directly into his chest. "Evan," I whispered, barely able to make my voice steady, "please tell me the truth. Am I going to be hurt?" He didn't answer. He didn't even breathe for a moment. Then he exhaled through his nose, slow and heavy. "I'm trying to make sure you won't be," he said, his voice tight. "But I can't promise anything." Promises. It's strange how you never realize how fragile they are until someone won't give you one. I felt the chair beneath me cool and hard. My fingers tightened around the ropes. Not to pull, not to escape, just to feel something solid, something real. "Please," I whispered, "just tell me why this is happening." "I can't," he said again. Not angrily, not harshly, just broken. Like the words were stuck somewhere painful. The footsteps outside stopped. Silence. Then a knock. One single knock. Firm, slow, intentional. Evan stood up fast. His chair scraped the ground. A sudden movement unlike his earlier pacing. "Stay quiet," he whispered. "Don't speak. Don't move. Don't try anything." There it was again. The same warning. The same trembling hand inside his voice. He walked to the door. The metal hinges groaned when he opened it. A cold draft touched my skin. I heard two men enter, heavy steps. One walked with weight in his boots, the other walked lightly, almost too lightly for someone stepping into a threatening situation. "Is she tied?" a deep voice asked. "Yes," Evan answered. "Blindfolded?" "Yes." "Good." The deep-voiced man walked closer. I could feel him standing in front of me, even without seeing him. He smelled like tobacco and cold air. "How old is she?" he asked. "Mid-30s, Evan replied. The man grunted. "Not bad." Not bad? My stomach twisted. What did that mean? Why did my age matter? The lighter-footed man moved around me. He circled the chair once, twice, like a wolf examining something wounded. "Did she fight?" he asked. "No," Evan said. A short, satisfied sound. "She'll be easier then." Easier. That single word made something inside me fold into itself. I tried not to breathe too loudly. I tried not to tremble too visibly. But fear has its own voice, its own pulse. Both men went silent for a long, unsettling moment. Then the deep voice said, "You did good bringing her." Evan didn't respond. "You're getting paid," the man added, as if money justified everything. Evan's voice came out tight. "I don't care about the money." "You should," the man said. "You need it." A pause. A heavy one. A silent truth hung in the air. The lighter-footed man stepped close enough that I could feel warmth from his body. "What's your name?" he asked me. I stayed silent. "Answer him," the deep voice ordered. Before I could decide whether to speak, Evan stepped in. "She's not speaking. Leave her alone for now." The lighter man chuckled. "You always get attached too fast." The deep voice shifted, annoyance and authority mixing. "Well, tie her to the pole. She stays here while we check the place." I heard footsteps move away. A metal pole clanged softly somewhere behind me. Then hands grabbed the chair. Firm, rough hands. Not Evan's.
"Stand up," the lighter voiced man said. My legs shook as I rose. Someone unknotted the ropes around my wrists just enough to pull me up, then retied them behind the pole, so tightly my wrists stung. I was secured now. No chance of moving, no chance of running. The blindfold stayed on. I heard the two men walk away from me, discussing something in low tones. Money, a deal, a timeline I didn't understand. Then I heard another sound, the unmistakable crack of knuckles. "Evan," the deep voice said, "we need to talk." They walked to the far end of the room. I could barely hear their voices now, muffled, tense. One voice rose, the deep one, sharper now. "You had one job, no mistakes, no attention." Evan's voice trembled. "I didn't make a mistake. No one saw anything." "You sure? Because you've messed up before." "I didn't mess up this time," Evan said, his voice breaking. "I swear." "Swearing doesn't matter," the deep voice replied. "Results do." Their voices blurred again, muted, distant, but the weight of tension stayed.
A different kind of silence filled the room. The sinking kind. The kind that tells you the people in charge are losing patience. I stood there, tied to the pole, blindfolded, heart racing, but strangely listening more to Evan than to the men threatening us both. His fear felt different, not like mine. Mine was fear of what they would do. His was fear of failing them. Both were terrifying, but his keen was shame, guilt, a kind of desperation, the kind that makes people do terrible things. Minutes passed, or what felt like minutes. Time moved strangely again, stretching thin. Then footsteps returned. The lighter-footed man stopped directly in front of me. I could feel his breath. "You'll behave, right?" he asked. I didn't respond. He leaned close, his whisper sliding under my skin. "Because if you don't, we won't be gentle." His words felt like hands around my throat. "Leave her alone," Evan snapped suddenly. The lighter man laughed. "Ah, look who's protecting her now." "Back off," Evan said, firmer this time. The deep voice returned. "That's enough. We need to move." The lighter man stepped away from me. I could feel the air shift. "Evan," the deep voice ordered, "watch her. Don't let her do anything stupid." Evan didn't move. Didn't speak. "Did you hear me?" the man said. "Yes," Evan whispered. The door opened. The two men stepped out. The door closed. Silence. Then Evan breathed again. Long, shaky. The breath of someone carrying too much. He walked back toward me. Slow steps, soft steps. "Are you okay?" he whispered. I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the question seemed impossible. "I don't know," I said softly. He exhaled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." His voice cracked on the second sorry. "You don't have to keep apologizing," I whispered. "Just tell me the truth." I felt him stop directly beside me. His presence felt closer than before, heavy with something unspoken. "I will," he said. "Just not yet." "Why not?" "Because the truth will make this worse." That sentence felt like a blade sliding between two ribs. "Worse?" I whispered. "How can it get worse?" He didn't answer. I heard him sit down, maybe on the floor or another chair. He sat close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body against the cold air. "Can you loosen the ropes?" I asked. "I can't," he said. "If they check and see, they'll hurt you," I finished. He didn't deny it. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then I asked softly, "Evan, why did you do this? Why me?" He let out a long, painful breath. "Because they made me," he said. "Who are they?" He whispered the answer like it hurt to say. "People I owe, people who don't let things go." Something inside me tightened. "Is it money?" "Yes." "How much?" "A lot." "How did it start?" Silence. Then I messed up my life. One wrong choice led to another. I kept thinking I could fix it. I kept thinking I could climb out.
but every time I tried, I fell deeper. His voice cracked again, soft, raw, human. He whispered, I didn't want this. I didn't want any of it, but they threatened someone I love. Who? I asked. He swallowed hard. My sister. The room shifted. The world shifted. Fear shifted. This wasn't about greed. This wasn't about cruelty. This was about survival, his and someone innocent. He told me if I brought someone here, if I helped them get what they wanted, they'd leave her alone. I didn't know what to say. Evan, I whispered, that's not how these kinds of people work. He knows, he said, but when you're desperate, you believe anything. He let the truth settle. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I did this, everything would be okay. But now what? They're planning something worse, he said. Something I didn't know about. What are they going to do? I asked, heart pounding. I don't know, he said, but I heard them talking. They're not just here for you. They're here to send a message. A message. The word echoed like thunder. Rachel, he whispered, you're not random. They picked you for a reason. My breath caught. A reason. What reason? I asked. He lowered his voice to a trembling whisper. You know someone they want to hurt. My mind spun. Someone they want to hurt? Who? Why? How? I felt dizzy, like the room tilted. Who do I know? I whispered. I don't know their names, Evan said. But they said something when they saw you, something that made everything worse. What did they say? He swallowed hard. They said, she's perfect. I remember waking up the next morning with the heaviness of yesterday still setting on my chest. It felt as if someone had placed a cold stone over my heart and I had no strength to lift it. Sleep came in small pieces and left in bigger chunks. Every time I drifted off, I saw his face. Not clearly, not like a photograph, but like a shadow that would not leave me alone. His voice echoed in my ears again and again. Don't try anything. Those 3 words had settled inside me like a warning tag, like a burn mark. I sat up slowly, breathing out, rubbing my palms together. Even though I was home now, my body reacted the same way, tense, cold, alert, on guard, as though at any moment the door might swing open and that stranger would walk in again. I stayed staring at the wall a long while. I didn't know what time it was. Morning? Maybe. The light felt faint, quiet. It was strange to be home, but not feel safe. Strange to sit in my own bed and feel like a visitor. Strange to drink from my own cup and still check behind me, as if someone might be watching. Nothing about that day made sense. Nothing about that night made sense. I thought about calling someone, but who? I didn't want to scare my family. They already worried when I traveled alone or came home late from work. And now, telling them I had been taken, held, threatened, would change everything. They would not let me leave home again. They would hover, they would panic, they would rearrange my life for me out of love. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. So I sat quietly with the truth inside me like a secret I wasn't ready to unwrap. I tried to remember it all clearly, every step, every detail, every sound. But my memory kept slipping, like the edges had been smudged. Trauma does that. It doesn't present itself in a neat sequence. It comes back in pieces, in flashes, a fragment here, a sensation there. All I knew was that I had been somewhere I did not choose, and I had been told not to try anything.
and my soul shook because everything inside me wanted to do something, but fear held me still. I replayed the moment over and over, his grip on my arm, his voice, the darkness, the quiet, the way the air smelled, dusty and thick, the way my own breathing sounded too loud to my ears, the way my heart raced like it was trying to escape my body, the way I whispered, "Please, please don't hurt me." Not sure if he even heard me. It didn't matter if the words left my mouth or not. He wasn't listening. He wasn't there to hear me. The sun finally crawled into the room and filled the wall in front of me with pale light. I exhaled and stood up, forcing my feet onto the floor. My legs felt weak, as though they had forgotten how to carry me. I stretched my fingers, rolled my shoulders, and walked slowly into the kitchen. The world looked the same. The room looked the same. But I didn't feel the same. Something in me had shifted. I made coffee. I held the cup in both hands to stop the small shake in my fingers. I watched the steam rise and fade into nothing. It reminded me of time, how something so visible could disappear so fast. I tried to eat, but fear is a thief of appetite. Even if your body is hungry, your mind refuses the food. I sat down at the table and sighed again, a long, tired sigh. I didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know how to pretend I was fine. So I let the morning pass in silence. Later that day, I forced myself to go outside. I thought fresh air might clear the fog inside me. I walked slowly down the sidewalk, careful, aware of every sound. Footsteps, passing cars, rustling leaves. Even the wind brushing against me made me flinch. I had never felt unsafe outside, not like this. I found myself constantly checking behind me, looking at strangers longer than necessary, trying to read faces, trying to listen to tones, trying to guess intentions. My senses were too awake, too open, too sharp. Everything felt like a possible threat. I went to a small cafe nearby. I sat in the corner where I could see the door, my back against the wall, my hands in my lap, my heart beating slow but heavy. A woman at the next table smiled at me, a soft, friendly smile. She asked, "Busy day?" I stared at her longer than I should have, my mind trying to decide if she was safe. Finally, I answered quietly, "Just tired." She nodded as if she understood. She didn't. She couldn't. But her kindness still softened something inside me. I stayed there for almost an hour, drinking slowly, breathing, grounding myself. People came and went, some in a rush, some laughing, some lost in thought. Life moved normally around me while I stayed frozen in my slower, shaken pace. I didn't realize how long I'd been sitting until I noticed the sky getting darker outside. I stood and walked home again, each step feeling a little easier than the last. But when I reached my front door, I hesitated. A part of me feared opening it, as though the person who took me might be inside waiting. It took effort to turn the handle. It took effort to step inside. It took effort to breathe normally. But I did, slowly. Day by day, the conflict inside me deepened. I didn't speak about it to anyone, not even to myself. I tried to resume routines, but everything felt off. My thoughts wandered. My mind drifted back to that moment. Fear lived inside me like an unwanted guest. Sometimes in the middle of doing something normal, washing dishes, folding laundry, reading a book, I would suddenly feel cold. A sudden wave of panic would rise without warning. My fingers would go numb. My breathing would speed up. My eyes would blur. My stomach would twist. I'd have to sit down, close my eyes, remind myself, you're home, you're safe, he's not here, you're okay. But even saying those words didn't always help, because fear has a way of pretending. It pretends to leave, pretends to fade, pretends to be gone. Then it comes back, uninvited, unwelcome, and unannounced. A few days later, I had a dream, a vivid one. I was walking alone down a street when suddenly someone grabbed me from behind, just like he had, fingers gripping my arm, pulling me back. I couldn't see his face, I couldn't hear his voice, but I felt the fear all over again. I woke up sweating, my heart pounding like running a marathon. I sat up straight, wrapped my arms around me, and rocked gently until the panic settled. It took a long time. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I knew I needed to take steps, small ones, but steps. So I forced myself to go to the grocery store one morning. I picked a time when it wouldn't be crowded. I walked slowly through the aisles, my heart beating in nervous rhythms. I picked up apples, bread, milk, nothing special. But every aisle became a quiet battle. Every corner became a question. When I reached the freezer section, a man walked by too close. The sound of the freezer door clanking open startled me so much I dropped the carton in my hand. It hit the floor with a loud crack. Milk spilled everywhere. I froze. People looked at me. I could feel their eyes. My hand shook. My face flushed. My breathing quickened. An employee hurried towards me. "It's okay," he said gently. "We'll clean it up. Don't worry." But I did worry. Not about the mess. Not about the milk. I worried about myself. About why I reacted that way. About how deep the fear had crawled into me.
I apologized to him, even though he kept saying it was fine. I tried to steady myself, gripping the handle of the cart like it might hold me up. That's when I realized I was still in the middle of the experience, not after it, not beyond it, not healed from it, still inside it. Later, sitting in my car, I let myself cry. Not loud tears, just soft ones, quiet ones. Ones that fall slowly and land gently on your lap. I wiped them with the sleeve of my sweater and whispered, "One day at a time." The words helped a little. I drove home slowly. The road felt longer than usual. The sky felt heavier than usual. The world felt unfamiliar. But at least I was moving forward, moving through it. The next moment of conflict came not from outside, but from inside me. I began questioning everything. Why did this happen to me? Why me? Was there something I could have done differently? Did I make a mistake? Did I provoke something by accident? Should I have reacted differently? Should I have cried louder? Should I have fought? Should I have screamed? Should I have run? But the truth is, you don't know who you are in a moment like that until it happens to you. And even then, you act on instinct, not logic. Fear chooses for you. Your body chooses for you. Your survival instinct chooses for you. I tried to be gentle with myself, but the questions kept coming. One night, I sat in bed and whispered, "You did what you had to do to stay alive." Hearing myself say it made something inside me soften. I wiped tears from my eyes and breathed deeply until my chest relaxed. The rising conflict wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. It was internal. It was a slow, steady climb into fear, confusion, and uncertainty.
It was the kind of conflict you feel but can't explain. Some days I would stare at the wall and lose track of time. Other days I would move around the house as though nothing had happened. Then suddenly, a random sound or movement would send my heart racing again. Healing wasn't linear. It zigzagged, it looped, it paused, it rose again, just like a slow tide moving in and out. A turning moment in the rising conflict happened one evening. I was preparing dinner, a simple meal, something easy. The knife slipped from my hand because my grip shook again. It dropped onto the cutting board with a sharp noise, and instantly I froze. My mind transported me back to the dark place, to the moment he said, "Don't try anything." I felt the same cold wave hit me, the same tension in my chest, the same numbness in my legs. I leaned on the counter and tried to breathe. In, out, in, out. Slow, steady, grounding. After a long while, I sat down at the table, my dinner half prepared, my hands trembling. I didn't cry this time. I didn't panic, but I felt tired. So tired. Emotionally tired. Mentally tired. Spiritually tired. Like all the strength I had was being tested one small piece at a time. I whispered to myself, "You survived that day. You'll survive this too." The words felt true, even though my heart took a moment to believe them. The conflict also came from my surroundings. Doors closing too loudly, people walking too fast behind me, someone raising their voice in a store, a car horn blaring too long, a dog barking unexpectedly, a shadow moving when I didn't expect it. Every little thing pulled me back just a little, not the whole way, but enough to shake me. I knew it was trauma, but knowing didn't stop the reactions. Knowing didn't erase the fear. Knowing didn't make the memory go away, but knowing did something else. It helped me see that I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't weak. I wasn't broken. I was healing, even if the healing looked messy. Even if the healing looked like too many deep breaths and sudden pauses. Healing never looks like the movies. It looks like small steps, quiet victories, moments when you choose to continue even when it would be easier to stop. The days kept passing. I forced myself to go outside a little more. I walked around the block. I sat on a bench in the park. I listened to children laughing. I watched birds jump from branch to branch. I observed people talking, walking, living. Life continued, and slowly I tried to join it. The more I went outside, the less foreign the world felt. I still scanned my surroundings. I still stayed alert, but my steps felt steadier. My heart beat calmer. That didn't mean the fear was gone. It just meant I was learning to walk with it. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. A neighbor I rarely spoke to knocked on my door. I hesitated before opening it. He asked if everything was all right. He said he noticed my blinds had been closed for days. He said he saw me shaking in the grocery store. He said he wasn't trying to pry, but just wanted to check on me. For a moment, my eyes filled with tears, not because of fear, but because someone noticed me. Someone cared. Someone saw I wasn't okay. I almost told him, almost, but the words stayed stuck in my throat. I thanked him, smiled gently, and said I was just tired. He nodded kindly, not pressing anything further. Sometimes kindness feels like medicine, not the cure, but the first step toward it. The rising conflict continued in subtle ways. Every day brought new challenges. Every night brought new thoughts. But slowly something else began to rise too. Strength. Quiet strength. Not the loud movie type, not the dramatic type, but the steady, everyday type. The type that helps you wash dishes even when your hands shake. The type that helps you go outside even when your legs feel weak. The type that helps you smile at a stranger even when your heart feels heavy. The type that whispers, keep going, even when your mind says stop. I didn't realize I was growing stronger. Not at first. It happened quietly, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one step at a time. And so the conflict inside me continued, not loud and wild, but slow and persistent. The kind that teaches you who you are, the kind that forces you to face yourself, the kind that shows you how deeply a moment can shake you and how slowly you can climb back out of it.
The fear didn't leave, but I learned to live alongside it. The memory didn't vanish, but I learned to hold it gently instead of fighting it. The confusion didn't end, but I learned to give it space. This was my rising conflict, not chaos, not battle, just a journey through quiet storms, storms no one could see, storms I carried inside, storms I walked through alone. But still, I walked. I didn't know I was walking toward a turning point, not at first. Sometimes change arrives quietly, the way morning light sneaks in through a window without asking permission. Sometimes it doesn't knock. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, I'm here to help you grow now. It just comes, softly, slowly, gently, almost unnoticed. For weeks, I lived in a strange rhythm, a little better some days, a little worse on others. Healing was not something I could measure. It didn't look like progress on a chart. It didn't look like a straight line. It looked like circles, spirals, loops. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. There were days where I woke up and breathed a little easier. Days where the sunlight felt warm instead of heavy. Days where I smiled at people without forcing it. Days where the fear felt lighter. But there were also days when I woke up with the familiar weight sitting on my chest again. Days where even the sound of someone closing a door made my body flinch. Days where memories wrapped themselves around me like cold fingers. Yet somewhere in that messy path, something small changed. It started the morning I looked in the mirror and saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Myself. Same eyes, same face, same tired look, yes, but something else too. Strength. A quiet kind of strength. A tired kind of strength, but strength nonetheless. It was a faint glimmer, like a candle still burning even after a storm, a small flame refusing to go out. I stared at my reflection and whispered, "You're still here." The words surprised me. I wasn't speaking to anyone else, just myself, just the version of me who survived that night, just the version of me who woke up every day trying again. That was the first shift, not big, not loud, but real. Another shift came a few days later when I decided to open the windows. I hadn't done that in a long while. I'd kept the blinds closed, the curtains drawn, the house sealed like a box I refused to open. But that morning I walked to the window and pulled the curtains apart. Light rushed in, warm, golden, soft. It washed over the room, making everything look new again. I took a deep breath and whispered, "It's time. Time to let light in. Time to let air in. Time to let myself start again." It didn't erase the fear. It didn't erase the memories, but it softened something inside me. I spent the rest of the morning tidying up the house, not because it was messy, just because I needed movement. I needed rhythm. I needed something to do with my hands, something to remind me that I could shape my surroundings, that I still had control over some things. As I dusted the shelf, I came across an old photo of myself. A smiling woman. A woman whose eyes carried no heavy shadows. A woman who laughed freely. A woman who walked through the world without looking behind her. For a moment, I felt grief. Grief for who I had been. Grief for what I had lost. But then another feeling rose beneath it. A warm one. A hopeful one. Because that woman wasn't gone. She was still here. Just quieter. Just shaken. Just waiting. I placed the photo back gently, letting my fingers linger on the frame a few seconds longer. Then I continued cleaning, letting the simple act become its own kind of meditation. Another turning moment came unexpectedly when I was washing dishes. The water was warm, the sound steady. My hands moved almost automatically, and for the first time in weeks, my mind didn't drift back to fear. It didn't replay scenes. It didn't freeze. It didn't panic. It simply rested. I stood there for a long while, hands submerged in water, breathing slowly. There was something comforting about the smallness of the moment, something simple, something safe. I realized something important then. Healing doesn't always come in big dramatic waves. Sometimes it comes in quiet moments of peace. Moments where you realize you've gone 10 minutes without fear. Moments where you breathe naturally. Moments where the world feels less sharp. Those moments became my stepping stones. The turning point grew larger the day I finally spoke, not to a friend, not to family, not even to a stranger, but to myself. It happened one evening when I sat on the edge of my bed, feeling the familiar ache creeping back into my chest. I placed my hand over my heart and whispered, "You survived. You're trying. You're healing. That's enough." I didn't expect the words to comfort me, but they did. I repeated them again, louder this time. "That's enough." For the first time, I believed it. Not fully, but enough to feel a shift. Another shift came a few days later when I decided to take a walk farther than usual. I didn't plan it. I just kept walking, one step at a time, letting the cool afternoon breeze touch my face. I reached a small park I hadn't visited in months. Children played on swings, birds hopping around in the grass. Someone was reading on a bench. Everything looked ordinary, and yet something inside me clicked. Life had continued, and I could continue too. I sat on a bench and watched the world move around me, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, I felt connected, grounded, present. That was new. A dog wandered up to me and nudged my hand with its nose. I startled at first, then laughed softly. The owner apologized, but I shook my head. "It's okay. He's sweet." The dog wagged his tail and something warm blossomed in my chest. Connection. Comfort. A tiny spark of joy. I didn't realize how starved I had been for small joys until they returned. That evening, as I walked home, I noticed the sky painted in soft pink and gold. I stopped to look at it, not out of fear, not to scan surroundings, but simply to admire its beauty. That felt like a victory. A quiet one, but a victory still. The real turning point, however, came on a day I least expected.
I was sitting on my couch, holding a cup of tea. The room was silent, the windows open, a soft breeze drifting in. I felt calm. Not fully myself yet, but closer. Then my phone buzzed. A message from a close friend. "Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Are you okay?" For weeks, I had avoided messages, avoided calls, avoided people. But this time, something inside me responded differently. I typed slowly. "I'm okay. Just going through something. But I'm getting better." Before I could lose courage, I hit send. I expected my heart to race. It didn't. I expected fear to creep back. It didn't. Instead, I felt relief. Another message came. "I'm here whenever you want to talk." I stared at those words for a long time, not because they made me panic, but because they made me feel supported.
That was another turning point. Letting someone in, even just a little. A few days later, I finally spoke to someone face to face. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a long conversation, but it mattered. I was headed home from a small grocery trip when I ran into my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Parker. She was the type of woman who always had fresh flowers in her home, always greeted people by name, always offered cookies to children passing by. She looked at me with her kind eyes and said, "You look tired, dear. Are you eating well?" For once, I didn't pretend. I didn't fake a smile. I didn't hide behind automatic responses. I said softly, "I'm trying." She nodded slowly, as if she understood more than I said. She placed her hand gently on my arm, light, warm, comforting. Not gripping, not threatening, just steady. Her touch didn't frighten me, it soothed me. "You're stronger than you think," she said. I felt tears rise, but I blinked them away and smiled. "Thank you." Sometimes a simple sentence can cradle you in ways you didn't expect. Sometimes the right words arrive at the right moment, even if spoken by someone you weren't looking to for comfort. That night, I felt lighter, a little freer, not fully healed, but definitely in motion. Days passed, and the shifts continued, one after the other, small but meaningful. I started cooking again, listening to music again, sitting by the window with tea again, stretching in the morning, cleaning with intention, smiling at myself in the mirror, breathing more deeply, sleeping a little longer, waking with less dread. Each small return felt important. Each small step felt like reclaiming something that had been taken from me. The biggest turning point came when I realized I was no longer living in the moment of fear, but around it, beside it, beyond it. I still remembered, yes. The memory still existed, but it no longer felt like a shadow glued to my back. It felt like something behind me, not on top of me. One morning, I woke up and the very first thing I felt wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It wasn't heaviness. It was calm, a soft calm, a gentle calm, a fragile calm, but calm nonetheless. I sat up, stretched, and walked to the kitchen. I made coffee without trembling, opened the window without hesitating, watched the world outside without scanning for danger. And I whispered, "Today feels different." I didn't force it. I didn't question it. I didn't fear losing it. I just let myself feel it. Later that day, I made a decision, one that marked a true turning point. I decided to reclaim my routine. Not all of it, not aggressively, just little by little. I put on shoes and went for a walk without planning every step. I browsed a shop without watching every person around me. I bought myself a small gift, a scented candle. Not because I needed it, but because I wanted it. Wanting something, anything, felt like a sign of life returning. When I came home,
I lit the candle. The gentle fragrance filled the room, soft and soothing. I sat in silence, feeling the warmth of the flame reflect inside me. I thought about everything that had happened, everything I had survived, everything I had felt, everything I had carried. And I felt something shift even deeper. Acceptance. Not the kind that says it's fine that it happened. No, it was not fine. It should not have happened. I did not deserve it. I did nothing wrong. But I accepted that it did happen. Accepted that it changed me. Accepted that healing was slow. Accepted that I was allowed to take time. Accepted that I could still build a life after fear. Acceptance made room for peace. Peace made room for hope. Hope made room for growth. I realized something else too. The turning point wasn't a single moment. It was a collection of moments, small shifts that added up, tiny steps that mattered, quiet realizations that lifted me one layer at a time. The turning point wasn't an explosion. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was gentle, patient, honest. It was me learning to breathe again, me learning to trust myself again, me learning to feel safe in my own skin again, me learning to live without fear being the loudest voice in the room. It was me choosing myself again and again and again. And that was the moment I knew I was truly on the path forward. I didn't know healing could feel this quiet, not silent, just quiet, soft, unhurried, like a gentle breeze passing through the room, lifting curtains ever so slightly. There was no dramatic shift, no sudden moment of clarity, no big cinematic end to my fear. Instead, healing came like the seasons, slowly shifting without asking for permission. One day, I simply noticed that the heaviness didn't greet me first thing in the morning. For weeks, fear had been the first thing I felt each day before my eyes even opened. But now, something else arrived first. Stillness. Calm. Something warm. I woke up on a Monday. The sun peeked through the window, painting soft lines across my blanket. I took a deep breath, expecting the familiar squeeze in my chest, the tightness that came with memories, but it didn't come. Instead, my breath flowed easily, like my lungs remembered how to open again. I sat up slowly and whispered, "Thank you," to no one in particular. The words felt natural. Gratitude had not visited me in a while. Fear had taken most of the space. But now there was room for both. Room for gratitude, room for softness, room for me. I walked to the kitchen and made coffee, my steady morning ritual. The sound of the machine humming used to trigger something inside me. Not anymore. Now it sounded like normal life, like routine, like something familiar, something grounding. I stood there for a moment and let the steam rise around me. It felt warm, safe, comforting. Little moments like this meant more to me than big milestones. Big milestones were easy to expect. Small ones were easy to miss. And yet small things healed me the most. Later that week, I went on another walk. It had become something sacred, a gentle promise I made to myself. One step outside, then another, and another. The air felt crisp that morning, a mix of cool and warmth, like the world couldn't decide what season it was. I wrapped a light jacket around me and let the wind brush my cheeks. For the first time in months, I walked without rehearsing escape routes in my mind. I walked without mapping shadows. I walked without scanning faces. I just walked. I let myself notice the world again, one detail at a time.
The leaves dancing on branches, distant laughter, a dog chasing its own tail, the smell of someone brewing coffee nearby, the sound of a car passing slowly, the crunch of gravel under my shoes. Life had not changed much outside, but I had changed inside. I didn't feel like a stranger in my own skin anymore. I didn't feel like a visitor in my own life. I felt present, present in the world, present in my steps, present in myself. That was resolution in its truest form, not erasing the past, but learning to breathe differently around it. One evening, I felt ready to share, at least a little. Not the whole story, not the details, not the darkness, just the truth that I had struggled and I was healing. I invited my close friend over, the same one who texted weeks earlier, the same one I couldn't respond to at first, the same one who waited patiently. We sat on my couch sipping tea. She looked around and smiled softly. "You've opened the windows," she said. I felt my chest warm. She noticed. She understood, without me explaining anything. "Yes," I whispered. "It feels good." She didn't press, didn't ask questions, didn't pry. Instead, she said something simple but powerful. "I'm glad you're finding yourself again." The words landed gently, like snowflakes falling on warm ground, soft but meaningful. I nodded. "I'm trying," I said. "That's enough," she replied. And for the first time, I fully believed it. The next meaningful moment of resolution happened unexpectedly while I was grocery shopping. A place that once terrified me, a place where my fear had spilled out, literally, with the milk, a place where panic once held me hostage. But this time, it felt different. I walked through the aisles without shaking. I picked up items without rushing. I breathed without controlling my breath. I didn't flinch when freezer doors opened, didn't panic when someone walked behind me, didn't freeze when a cart clattered against the floor. At one point, I caught my own reflection in a freezer door. I stood there quietly for a moment, looking at myself, not searching for fear, not checking for trembling, just seeing myself. And I smiled. A small smile, but a true one. That woman staring back at me looked strong. Not invincible, not fearless, but strong in the way that mattered. Strong because she endured. Strong because she healed. Strong because she kept moving. I continued shopping with a lighter heart. Another shift came when I decided to rearrange my living room. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted my space to feel new, fresh, reflective of the new version of me. I pulled the couch to a different wall, moved a plant closer to the window, placed a thick, soft rug near the coffee table, and added 2 candles, one lavender, one vanilla. I opened the windows wide. The light came in just right, soft, gentle, calming. When I stepped back and looked at the room, an unexpected feeling rose in me. Pride. I had shaped something. I had claimed something. I had made this space my own again. For a long time, my home felt like a place I hid in. Now it felt like a place I lived in. Home. Safe. Warm. Mine. Resolution also came through routines. I began waking up earlier, not because fear jolted me awake, but because I genuinely wanted to see the morning light. I made breakfast slowly. Eggs, toast, a little fruit. I ate gently, not rushed, not distracted, not anxious. I signed up for a yoga class at the community center. The first session made my hand shake, not because of fear of people, but because stepping into any new space after trauma is like stepping into ice water. Your body remembers before your mind does. But the instructor had a calming voice. Her words flowed like soft waves. "Just breathe," she said. "Just be here." The mats were soft, the lights dim, the air warm, peaceful. I moved carefully, letting my body stretch in ways it hadn't in months. There were moments where the release felt emotional. The muscles carrying my fear slowly opened. The tension I hadn't noticed slowly melted. The tightness in my jaw loosened. My shoulders dropped. Halfway through the class, I felt tears rise.
Not from pain, not from sadness, but from relief. Relief that my body could move again. Relief that I could trust it again. No one noticed. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. And that was perfect. After class, I walked outside feeling lighter, like my body had set something free. Another turning moment in this resolution happened during sleep. For so long, nightmares kept me awake. Images, sounds, hands grabbing, voices echoing. But one night, I slept peacefully. Not deeply, not perfectly, but peacefully. I woke up and realized I didn't remember dreaming. My mind had rested. My body had been still. My heart had been calm. That felt like the biggest victory of all. I whispered, "Thank you," again into the quiet room. As days turned into weeks, the fear stopped being my shadow. It no longer followed me everywhere. It no longer whispered threats. It no longer dictated my choices.
But I kept walking through it day by day. There were nights when I woke up suddenly, thinking I heard that same cold voice whispering, "Don't try anything." I would sit up, breathing hard, listening to the quiet room around me until I realized I was safe. The fear still lived somewhere deep inside me, but it didn't control me the way it once did. In the light of morning, it faded little by little. One morning, I stepped outside alone. I walked down the street slowly, letting the sun rest on my shoulders. The world didn't look dangerous. It looked normal, almost gentle. Dogs barked in the distance. A child laughed somewhere behind a fence. Life had kept moving, and now I was moving with it again. People ask me later how I found the strength to stay calm during the worst moments. I didn't know how to answer, because the truth is, sometimes the body finds calmness out of shock, not bravery. But looking back, I realized something else too. Fear didn't stop me from thinking. Fear didn't stop me from noticing small opportunities. Fear didn't stop me from waiting for the right moment. Even when my soul shook, I stayed awake inside myself. And maybe that was the strength others saw in me. Weeks passed. The sounds that once made me jump didn't scare me anymore. Doors closing softly, footsteps in the hallway. Even shadows didn't look threatening. I learned to breathe again, to rest again, to trust again. Slowly, gently, life stitched itself back together. Not perfectly, not the same as before, but whole enough to move forward. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about remembering without breaking. One day, I sat at the window and watched cars move down the street. People were going about their lives, shopping, working, laughing, rushing, unaware of the storms others might be carrying inside. I wondered how many of them had gone through something they never talked about. How many had moments that changed them deeply, but quietly? Pain doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it just sits inside you like a small stone in a pocket. But you learn to carry it. You learn to walk with it. And eventually you learn to walk without thinking about it every minute. The more I healed, the more I understood that life isn't measured only by the things we survive. It's measured by the way we rise afterward. There were days when I felt steady, days when I felt fragile, and days that were somewhere in between. But they all counted, every one of them. Eventually, the fear turned into memory, and the memory turned into something softer, not harmless, not pleasant, but softened by time. I found myself telling the story to others, not because I wanted sympathy, but because I wanted to remind them of something I'd learned the hard way. Human beings are stronger than they realize. Even when we shake, even when we collapse, even when we are afraid, there is something in us that keeps trying, keeps holding on, keeps waiting for light. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's faint, but it's there. Months later, I visited the place where everything began, the store where I was last seen before everything changed. I stood outside for a moment. The air smelled the same. The sidewalk looked the same. People walked by without knowing the weight that once hung here. I didn't walk inside.
I just stood there long enough to breathe and remind myself that I was no longer the person who walked out of that store that day. I had changed. Not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but in a real way. I had learned to value simple safety, a warm home, a familiar voice, a door I could lock from the inside, the comfort of my own space. These things don't seem special until they are taken away. And when you get them back, you see them differently. One evening, I sat with my sister again. We watched the sunset from the porch. The sky melted into soft orange and rose-colored clouds. She turned to me and said quietly, "You're glowing again." I smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached my eyes, and she noticed that. "I feel later," I said. And it was true. The heaviness was still inside me, but it had shifted. It didn't press down on me the way it once did. I had found space to breathe around it. Later that night, when I was getting ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked tired but peaceful. My posture looked softer. And for the first time since everything happened, I whispered to myself, "You're safe now." It didn't erase the past. It didn't erase the fear, but it brought comfort, deep comfort. I turned off the light and lay down under the covers. The room was quiet. The air was warm. I closed my eyes and let myself drift into sleep without fear. That alone was a victory. People say time heals all wounds. I don't think that's fully true. Time doesn't erase pain. Time doesn't fix what happened, but time gives you space. Time gives you perspective. Time gives you moments where healing becomes possible. Time helped me understand something important. I didn't survive because I was brave all the time. I survived because I never gave up on the moments when fear tried to take over. I was frightened. I was uncertain. I was shaken. But I stayed alive, one breath at a time. As I look back now, I realize that fear didn't define me. What defined me was what came after. The rebuilding, the small steps, the gentle reclaiming of my life, the quiet strength of starting over. And if I were to share a final message, it would be this. No matter how dark a moment feels, no matter how powerless you feel, light waits somewhere ahead. Sometimes the light comes slowly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, but it comes. You just need to keep breathing until it reaches you. That's how I survived. That's how I healed. That's how I moved forward. I wasn't fearless. I was simply human, and sometimes being human is enough.